I heard Dr. Nsiasare on Eyewitness News trying to, again, give some confidence to the general public as to what the government strategy was, and that basically try and explain away the new numbers and what they mean. Again, people should make what they want of it, but just take care of yourself.
Let's go to the headlines, because if you go to citinewsroom.com, Ghana's COVID-19 case count now 10,358, with recoveries now at 3,824. Also, other stories: growing community spread of COVID-19 must be kept. This is an analyst. Other stories: Ernesto Yeboah charge, Black Lives Matter vigil faces court today. Politics: NDC's move to frustrate electoral process must be condemned by all. And as you were saying, Nsiasare says we don't have enough health workers to manage COVID-19 cases. So this is a troubling one. Now let me take you to... Okay, let's come to the newspapers. I'll come back to the website.
Okay, the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper: 24 health workers test positive for COVID-19 in Fansiman. We are committed to peace, but won't accept flawed elections, according to John Mahama. Tertiary institutions get ready to open. Disinfection exercise begins.
Now, the Ghanaian Times: Railway Ministry averts disaster at Abofu, moves to safeguard Accra and Sawam Railway from erosion. Universities: Zoom Lion launch nationwide disinfection exercise in Accra. Ghana loses 100 million Ghana cedi port revenue. This is according to the Minority. And Ghana's confirmed COVID-19 cases hit over 10,000.
Front page of the Daily Statesman comes with a big headline, Bernard: don't do NDC evil work. Ewuku cautions youth as in Ketiamona inside violence up north. Mahama threatens EC over 2020 elections.
Now, if you go to the Chronicle, NPP given 48 hours ultimatum over disqualified candidate. National security should act more professionally. This is James Agaga. Legon VC charges Zoom Lion to actualize government dream on COVID-19. 2 in court over 64 NIA stolen laptops, and police gunned down 2 robbers in Kumasi.
Front page of the Daily Guide paper: we apostle unmasked after killer threats. Freddie Blake calls for unity ahead of primaries. Mahama hints at election 2020 rejection. It's also here. AG makes case against old register.
The Business Finder: ADB is still playing big in the poultry industry. ADB disburses 23.2 million Ghana cedis to 6 poultry value chain players in the Bono region. ICUMS records 1,400 transactions at land borders, and Malcolm donates 20,000 boxes of bar soup.
And finally, from me, Bernard, the front page of the New Crusading Guide: Foreign Minister celebrates UN as it marks 75th anniversary. Nungwa elders condemn NHC for removing Ni Odai Ayuku's name from Register of Chiefs, and Mahama's statement from yesterday is also on the front page of the paper.
CitiBusinessNews.com: over 170,000 businesses apply for with the 1 billion stimulus package. Other stories: Unipass challenges alarming. Restore previous system for now. Gift to GRA. Also, reduced imports push inflation for locally produced goods to 14%. And car dealers to demonstrate in 2 weeks of a ban on some second-hand cars. Now let's go to Star News. 2 remanded for stealing 64 NIA laptops. Bees attack New Jobbing North MP, MCE and chiefs. 4 others hospitalized. National Security interrogates Hot FM presenter after preacher's arrest. And NDC won't accept results of flawed elections. This is John Mahama. GNA annual inflation rises to 11.3% in May. Former President Rawlings urges alertness on COVID-19. And if you go to myjoyonline.com, this is not the time to compile a new register. This is Domahini to EC. Also, Mansu State 5 million cedis over death of his wife after 20 months of marriage. We had that story yesterday. And then Sete Champon says security operatives didn't plant weed on Apostle Kwabena 8J. That story is making some rounds. Let me take you to the BBC. US passes 2 million cases as states report rise. Also, Amazon bans police use of facial recognition technology. And those are the leading stories in that part of the world. Nigeria COVID-19 cases 13,873 with 409 new cases recorded yesterday. And then shock and fear as Burundi mourns veteran president Pierre Nkurunziza. Those are the stories. Now let's run into the headlines and the details. So I think I'll start with a few COVID-19.
Okay, let me take stories.
So
to page 25
yes
of the Daily Graphic before you come in.
Yes.
Increasing symptomatic cases of COVID-19 disturbing. The management of the Gais Municipal Hospital has expressed concern over the increasing number of symptomatic cases of the coronavirus disease in the facility. It attributed the situation to people refusing to seek help early, but rather stay at home to self-medicate even when they showed symptoms of COVID-19, only to visit the hospital for diagnosis when their conditions deteriorated. According to the medical superintendent of the hospital, Dr. Benezodro Mensah, we used to see a lot more asymptomatic persons in the past, but now we are seeing more symptomatic people, which is a worry. It shows that more people are getting ill before presenting themselves to health facilities and are diagnosed with COVID-19. He expressed concern when the Bible Society of Ghana made a presentation to the hospital. Now, Dr. Odro Mensah advised patients to seek early diagnosis of their ailments and not wait till their conditions become worse before visiting hospital for care.
Let me give you some details now. Our COVID-19 case count is now 10,358 following the confirmation of 157 new cases. Ghana Health Service updated this Thursday, June 11, 2020. 69 more people have recovered, increasing the tally of recoveries to 3,824. 14 people in critical condition, 10 are severe. Ghana has done 240,204 tests since March 2020. Regional breakdown: Greater Accra 6642, Ashanti and Western 1799 and 788 respectively. Now, Kojo and Godfred, let me just give you two quick angles to this. We don't have enough health workers to manage COVID-19 cases. This is Dr. Nsia Sari. So this doesn't give comfort at all. Special advisor on health at the presidency, Dr. Anthony Nsia Sari, says Ghana lacks enough physicians and nurses to attend to persons infected with COVID-19 across the country. His revelations follow the confirmation of 291 new cases, which puts the country's total to above 10,000. Now, in relation to this, Nana Kofi Kwachi, who was interviewed, says growing community spread of COVID-19 must be curbed. An adjunct professor of Department of Health Policy in New York says government must work to urgently curtail the further community spread of COVID-19 in Ghana. So your story spoke about symptomatic cases increasing. He is referring to community spread. Kojo?
And then I have one more before Kojo comes in with the Noguchi story. 24 health workers test positive for COVID-19 in Infantsiman. That is on page 16 of the Daily Graphic. It says that 24 health workers in the Infantsiman municipality have contracted COVID-19, which has affected the staff strength of the directorate. All of them are currently on treatment and responding accordingly. The figure is out of the 72 recorded cases in the municipality as of 9th June 2020 and includes one imported case, while 3 of the cases have been referred.
Now, if you go to the center spread of the Ghanaian Times, Noguchi poised to become center of excellence in research, diagnosis, others. Now, Francis Into writes for the paper that the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research says it is poised to become a center of excellence in research, diagnosis, prevention, and control of diseases. It has therefore appealed to the government to support its activities by providing the needed funding regularly. The institute is capable of being a scientific center of choice, but this will require immense support in terms of capacity building and infrastructure from the government, Dr. James Abuaje, a postdoctoral fellow at the center, said. Speaking to the Ghanaian Times, Dr. Abuaje said the government must invest in research and development in general by helping to build the capacity and improve infrastructure. And this is where it gets interesting. According to him, most research funding came from external donors.
Yep.
And this did not augur well in the country's interest if we want to develop.
Also, if you go linked to that, tertiary institutions are getting ready to open. Disinfection exercise begins. That's on the back page of the Daily Graphic and also on page 6 of the Daily Guide. I'll take from Daily Guide. The Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Ebenezer Usu, has stated that close monitoring is ongoing with regard to the disinfection and fumigation exercises being carried out by Zoom Lion Ghana Limited. Speaking at the University of Ghana, Legon in Accra during the launch of the government's disinfection of public and private universities, Professor Usu, who doubles as the chairman of the Vice Chancellors of Ghana, said it was important for Zoomlion to take the exercise seriously in order to actualize the government's efforts.
Let's do some politics. NDC won't accept results of flawed elections. Mahama, this story is on Star News. Former President John Mahama has warned the NDC will not accept the results of quote-unquote flawed elections. Speaking at the 28th anniversary commemoration of NDC in Accra, Mr. Mahama, who is the party's flag bearer for the upcoming poll, cautioned the Electoral Commission against acts that could disenfranchise Ghanaians in the polls. Meanwhile, Sami Oku has been speaking. He is the national organizer of the MPP, CitiNewsroom.com. NDC's moves to frustrate the electoral process must be condemned by all. Story says Sami Oku, national organizer of the MPP, has called for the condemnation of what he calls the NDC's moves to undermine the electoral process. Speaking to Citi News, the Oku said the NDC was inciting the populace, calling and threatening people and inciting people to cause mayhem and destruction. And finally, in this area, myjournline.com, this is not the time to compile a new voters register Dormahini to EC. The paramount chief of Dorma in the Bono region, Osajifo Siadeyo Ajimambedu II, has called on the Electoral Commission to rescind its decision to compile a new voters register for the upcoming election. Speaking when the General Secretary of the Wisconsin NDC Congress, Asiedun Ketia, paid a courtesy call on him to register the party's displeasure at the EC's insistence on compiling a new register, Osajifa Jimambedu said the timing is wrong.
So today we hear from the Supreme Court, right?
I believe so, on
Yes,
the suit in relation to whether...
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let me give you more stories. Politics. NPP giving 48 hours ultimatum over disqualified candidate. Now the Chronicle says the current secretary and immediate past chairman of the Adansi Asuka constituency branch of the New Patriotic Party, Samuel Awi, and Peter Kwabena have served a 48-hour notice to the leadership of the party to reverse its decision to allow Samuel Benfo to contest the upcoming primaries.
Now, if you go to the page 3 of the Daily Statesman, Nana B is there. He says the youth can't forget Mahama's intransigence on trainees' allowance. The national youth organizer of the MPP, Nana Boache, has cautioned former President John Dramani Mahama that the youth of the country will not be conned into bringing him and the NDC to power again during the December elections. Quote, in as much as we find the sudden U-turn by Mr. Mahama on the important national issue of trainees' allowance curious, it brings closure to the political debate on the matter and vindicates the decision by the Kufado government to restore teacher and nurses' training allowance.
There's an interesting NIA story here, and I find it quite interesting. So, story by Muntala Inusa, Star News. 2 remanded for stealing 64 NIA laptops. The Circuit Court in Accra, presided over by His Honor Emmanuel Sando, has remanded 2 persons who were arraigned before the court on charges of stealing 15 HP ProBook laptops belonging to the National Education Authority. The 2, Franklin Ketia, a trader, and Victor Maduka, a businessman, pleaded not guilty to the charge of stealing, possession of stolen property, and dishonestly receiving contrary to law. They were, however, remanded in police custody to appear June 26. The brief facts of the case as presented were that the complainant in the case is Emmanuel Selby, head of projects at NIA's Information Management System. Now, Franklin Ketia is a trader, Victor Maduka, a businessman, both reside in Tetegu and La Paz. And then the details of the case are given. Investigations said that in March this year, Ketia received and bargained the price of a 12 HB ProBook from 2 others now at large and kept them. Then the details of all that happened is noted there. Now, let me just give you another quick one before you come in. Ernesto Yeboah faces court today, since you're on the court issue. The convener of the Economic Fighters League, Ernesto Yeboah, who was arrested at the Black Lives Matter vigil held in Accra on Saturday, will face court today, June 11. He's been charged on 2 counts, failing to notify the police about the vigil and breaching EI 64.
Now, still in court, Supreme Court rules out Gibber's amended writ. You know, the issue to do with the conditional access of free-to-air television. Now, the Chronicle reports that a 7-member panel of the Supreme Court yesterday rejected an attempt by the Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association to amend its writ before them. According to Gibber, which is challenging the National Communications Authority on the introduction of conditional access to free-to-air television, it had seen a publication on the authority's website, hence wanted to amend its writ, but the request was denied. However, the Supreme Court, presided over by Chief Justice Enin Yeboah, described the application as premature. The Apex Court then adjourned the case to June 23 to give its final decision on the case.
I have a sad story here from page 8 of the Daily Guide newspaper. That's the entertainment page. Actress Miliki Miku dies at 54. Now, actress Beatrice Chinri, popularly called Miliki Miku, is reportedly dead. Now, she was quite popular back in the day during KJTia. TV sitcom.
Kojo, guys, just is not going out. Unipass challenges are alarming. Restore previous system now. This is Citi Business News. This is something unbelievable. The Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders has criticized the Ghana Revenue Authority over what it describes as a failure of the newly introduced INCUMS, Integrated Custom Management Systems, known as Unipass. The system, according to GIF, has for the past 1 week since introduction faced series of challenges that called for urgent attention. At a press conference in Tema, President of GIF, Edoda Kron, said the system is bedeviled with challenges that threaten business and revenue at the ports. He says, as we speak, ICUMS has not been fully integrated with other players in the chain. This includes terminals, shipping lines, ground handlers, and courier stations. This has led to the re-emergence of manual processes of release. There seems to be a huge problem with the computation of figures in ICUMS, and of particular interest is that of vehicle declaration. We've noticed a trend of custom-validated duty declaration documents with figures which defy reason. The status quo before the change should be reinstated pending any further form of adjustment. Government would have to carefully appraise this dire situation and advise itself on the choices to make going forward, Mr. Akron said.
More on this. Ghana loses 100 million Ghana cedis port revenue. This is the minority. This story has a picture of Mr. Isaac Adongo. And the story in the Times says Ghana lost 100 million Ghana cedis at the port in 3 days due to errors in the switch from the port management system, GCNet, to ICUMS. Isaac Adongo, the Member of Parliament for Bogatanga Central and minority spokesperson on finance, who made the claim at a press briefing in Accra yesterday, said the anomaly occurred from April 28 to 30 this year. Now, more on ICUMS. ICUMS records 1,454 transactions at land borders. The Times reports that the Integrated Customs Management Systems says it has registered 1,452 transactions at the land frontiers since it was deployed. Out of this, 408 were direct imports into home use, 900 temporary vehicles, and 34 warehouse, 20 transit, and 9 free zones.
Well, Kojo, you have another story you should take, the one on the rails.
Yes. It's in the center spread of the Ghanaian Times.
Really?
The story says Railway Ministry averts disaster at Abofu.
Okay.
And Jonathan Donkor writes that following reports by the Ghanaian Times on the defective Achimota Abofu stretch of the Odo drain in Accra and its threats to structures, the Ministry of Railway Development has moved to safeguard road tracks nearby. The ministry is constructing a 50-meter retaining wall along the base of the Achimota underbridge to protect that section of the railway, that is the Accra-Saham Railway, from erosion caused by water from the drain.
And I'll give you a final story from Business, Bernard. Rent charges plantain push May inflation to 11%. And that is on page 45 of the Daily Graphic. Prices of goods and services went up at a moderate pace last month, and they did in April this year, according to data released by the Ghana Statistical Service. The data showed that rent charges, plantain and cassava were the key drivers of the May inflation rate, which the GSS reported at 11%.
In fact, on the inflation story, if you go to Citi Business News, there's a different angle on food inflation. Reduced import push inflation for locally produced goods to 14.1%. So inflation for locally produced goods, so that's a different category, not food, recorded the highest figure of 14.1% since the rebasing of the calculation of Ghana's inflation figure last year. And then according to the Statistical Service, this was influenced by reduced imports since March, when government imposed the ban on international travel. So it looks like the price of local goods is going up.
Yes, now let's go to some more business stories. Ashanti region tops NBSSI applicants.
Yeah, man.
The story says the executive director of the National Board for Small Scale Industries, Mrs. Kosiyanki, has paid a courtesy call on the Deputy Ashanti Regional Minister, Mrs. Elizabeth Ajiman, revealing that the region has more applicants than any other region for the 600 million stimulus package announced by the President.
Okay.
According to Mrs. Yanki, many of the applicants of the coronavirus alleviation program are from the Ashanti region. And in a post-interview with the media after paying a courtesy call on Mrs. Ajiman, she noted that their mission hinged on the stimulus package.
And if you go to the business page of the Daily Guide on page 9, 4 1D1F firms get tax waivers.
Okay.
So Parliament has approved government's request to waive taxes for some 4 local firms, another 1D1F project. Now, the waiver, which is on import duties, import VAT, get fund levy, import NHIL for Camelot Ghana Limited, Favor 01 Limited, and LK International Company Ghana Limited.
Now, I want to take you to Kufredia for a very bizarre story. CityNewsroom.com. Bees chase away MP DCE others from event. The member of parliament for New Javelin North, Nana J. Boatin, the MCE, Comfort Asante, and a host of other dignitaries, including traditional rulers, were forced to run for cover as a swarm of bees attacked them at the Kufredia Community Center, where a public function was being held. 2 of the victims are said to be receiving treatment at Kufredia St. Joseph Hospital. Some other persons who were not severely affected have since been treated and discharged. Incident occurred Wednesday, June 10, when the dignitaries gathered to launch rehabilitation works at the community center. Now, information is that the swarm of bees have been occupying portions of the ceiling of the community center for years. The incident brought the event to an abrupt end. Officials of Zoom Lion Limited later helped successfully disinfect the community center and the Asakori Township following the information about the attack.
There's a very interesting article in the Finder, Making Your Business Thrive in This Time of Crisis.
Yes,
and
sir.
it's by Mrs. Grace Enimiabua. She spoke about this on the City Breakfast Show.
She leaked the filler to me last week.
Yes, and this is in the Business Finder. So if you want to follow more, just read. And this morning, whilst a lot of people think that COVID-19 will disrupt a lot of things, there's a bit of hope. We are hearing from Ehi Beniti of Clear Space this morning.
What was he talking about?
And he's talking about digital in our times and how it's going to shape economies. And you should listen to this particular
And today there's a financial conference led by the senior minister.
It will be live on Citi FM at 10 o'clock. There's a lot happening on Citi. Stay with us. Citi Business News is next.